This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. Last week we got a lot of work done on the rudders, the inside, and we thought we were going to be working on the outside of the rudders this week, but we had a little change in plans due to some extra help we're getting from Brent and his brother Brian. We are so happy that they're coming to work with us this week.
Yeah, we could use the help. And so we have 2 extra people for 2 full days, so that speeds up things. So we wanted to take on some larger jobs this week. And that includes things like having to lift the big sole piece into the side of the hulls to check certain things. And so we're going to do, lots of work that requires more people, and we'll split into 2 teams and get a whole bunch done that way. So let's show you what we did, and then we'll get back and do a little wrap up after that.
We're back into production on our L brackets, because it turns out we need a lot more than we originally planned for, as in an additional 160 feet of it. Those all those little compartments that we're making inside of the webbing area of the hulls are using a ton of these L brackets in square footage. So we ran out already of what we made, and now we're making another 160 feet worth. And we can only make 40 feet a day. So this is going to take us 4 days to build up enough. But it only takes maybe an hour to make a set, so that's just 1 hour each day that we have to go into production on L brackets. Now that's only for the bilge and tanks and all those, water tanks, black, gray, and diesel. There'll be some other ones we'll need for when we get to the stern cabins. We already did the four cabins, but the stern cabins are going to require some more, so we'll probably have to make more than 160 feet total for those, but we'll figure those out later. Right now we're just concentrating on the hulls and getting those done so that we can get to the heads. Oops. We're down here working in the hull. This is on the starboard side. That's the forward cabin right there. And this is the forward diesel tank. And we're getting the L bracket supports in. for putting in the top of the tank in here. Now remember, on the diesel tanks that the sole sits up above here, and then there's a lid on the diesel tank with a gap in between. That's for the plumbing that goes on top of the diesel tank and have that space. So we got a laser in here so we can see it licking around this whole thing, so that's very, very close to perfectly level everywhere. And all these joints that we sealed are very nice as well. So then what's going to happen is we're going to cut a piece, a top of this lid in, but over here that top of that lid is notched around here like this, and it's actually notched from that edge over to this edge, and that's going to give us a place to bolt the lid down with a rubber seal around it onto these, because all 4 of these will be like that. And so they'll leave a square opening here that our lid will come down onto. And then everything below here is just to allow liquid to transfer between this side of the tank and the other side of the tank here. Now there's also a hole all the way down in the corner, very at the bottom, to let the last parts go through as well. So, and somebody asked about the tops. Well, this is the top here, so the highest the liquid can go is right here, so air can get through on this right here. So all set on that. Okay, number 2. These are very fiddly, so we didn't really show you us fiddling with them, but had to adjust them and adjust them and adjust them to get that laser licking just right around that whole thing and all of the corners flat. But it's in there, and so we've got 2 of these done, and we'll do 2 tomorrow. That'll be these 2 over here, and if we're feeling good, we'll do this diesel tank over here as well tomorrow. So we'll try and get 4 of these tomorrow, since we've already prepped all cutting everything, so we can just get straight to the epoxy work. This morning it was really cold, so we couldn't do any epoxy work, so Brian and I both went into the hulls and worked on the bilge area. We had some work to do on some of the baffles still. Had to cut a few more access port portions into there. He's still up there working on that right now. And I'm working on the first of the subfloor pieces, or another way of looking at it is the top of the diesel tank. Remembering that the actual sole will be this much higher above it. So I've got to measure out and start cutting these custom tank lids. Brian and I are down in the starboard hull working on the forward diesel tanks, creating those lids. I just showed you us cutting that out. And here's a R. Well, that goes in here. Like that. So we have the 2 over here to do next, and that's going to leave our little access port right in the center that we can reach down into each of these if we need to clean into these compartments. And then the seal was going to be right around the outside of this right here, and then that'll have a lid that comes down onto it and bolts down through here to hold it with the nitrile rubber between there, and that will cause it. Now the rest of it, of course, is all glued and sealed inside. It's bright and early on a Wednesday, and Brian and I have just made a field trip over to Garhauer Marine, picked up a big order, and so we're going to check it all out right now and take a look, make sure we've got everything. This is one of our deck organizers here. Garhauer makes some beautiful, beautiful looking stuff. So we're going to lay all this stuff out and see what we have. A lot of deck organizers, because we have a lot of lines. This is a stand-up block. Again, the craftsmanship on these things is extraordinarily nice. Beautifully done. So, what else we have here? We've got, those are the mounting plates for these. So we have 2 of those. I believe those are up at the bow for where our parasail comes down. Right at the bow, turns them. A little snap shackle with Beckett here. I think that's for one of our whole bag of blocks. The size of this beast. Again, give you some scale with my hand in here, but this is a massively strong block there. A little larger. That's just one box. Now we get into something different. We got some of our clutches here. These things are all metal, just beautiful. So we got 4 there. What else we got? Here's a 2. Another quad. So I think we have enough clutches here. What do you think? Remember, these all don't go over at the helm. There's a certain number of these that go at each winch position at the helm, but we also have winches and such downs on the side stern of the boat, and those have a bunch of clutches because we have our screecher coming back, our dagger boards coming back, and our parasailer lines all coming back to the stern winches. So there's a set of clutches back on those stern winches plus the ones that are at the helm, which is why there are so many of these. All right, well, that's our haul from Garhauer today. The only other big one here is our roller for our anchor. We'll be putting up in there when we build the catwalk and prodder area up at the front of the boat. But now Brian and I are going to check off the receipt over here and make sure that we got everything we paid for. So what's better than one Brian helping on the boat? 2 Brians. Brian and Brian. I cloned Brian and now I've got 2. Now this is Brian Field, Brent's brother. You've seen Brent before. I'll show it to you, and he's here as well. And we got the 2 Brians here working on the diesel tank lids. And what they're doing is they're coring them out and going to fill those cord edges so that they're sealed up. And while they're doing that, brother Brent here, hi there, is helping me, and we're gonna go work on the hull. So let's go upstairs. We're over here in the hull, and we're on the port side right now. And what we're doing is figuring out all of the plumbing because we caused ourselves some trouble. The problem is that we've now changed the configuration of this whole area when we went to 1 head and 1 shower. And that, I had a plan for all of the plumbing in this boat, which went out the window now when we're dealing with this hull. And let me show you why. So there's a wall that used to go all along the hallway right here. And that obviously extended all the way up to the ceiling here. But this wall used to be here, and it went all the way down to about here. And then at this point, it angled over like so. And then this went over to a hanging locker and stuff over there. So it bent right there, but then the hallway went through here. But not anymore. Because now what happens is, when we reach the center point here, which is about right here, this two wall now gets cut, and it goes inboard like that at an angle. And these two angled pieces that I'm showing you right here are both going to end up being doorways. So this is a doorway, and that's a doorway. This doorway takes you into the shower, and this doorway over here takes you into the head. They both have a sink in them, but there's only one head on that side and one shower on that side. And the doors are angled in like this. Okay, no problem, except that originally where this wall was, this is where all of the vent tubes and fill tubes and pump out tubes and everything ran along this back wall. But I don't have a back wall there anymore because the doors are here now. So that's caused us a bit of a problem. And we had to figure out this morning how we're going to solve all this. So it means rerouting a whole bunch of the way the plumbing is going to be done. So instead of the fill tubes and vent tubes and everything being along the inside of this wall here, I can't put anything on the inside of this wall because this is a wet area for a shower. It goes from here to there. And I don't want to have penetrations into the floor where the shower is, possible leaks through there. And so we want to get all of the tubing on the other side of that wall in the dry side of the boat versus the shower. So in the end, we figured out, we put the floor back in here and put the walls up in here and made sure this is going to work. But in the end, we're going to put the gray water pump out tube right here. This is the gray water tank. And that's going to come up right along the side of the wall that we're putting in here. There's a new wall. And so that's here. And then this is where the wall is actually, right there. And so this is the wet side, and the tube's going to come up the other side of this wall to the top. And that's the dry side. But fortunately, there's just enough room in the corner to put that on this side of that wall and get it up there. So that handles the gray water pump out. Now, some people have asked me, why do we need a gray water pump out? Why aren't you just kicking that overboard? Well, we are kicking it overboard 95% of the time through a through hull. But when in Turkey, you're not allowed to do that. So we have to have a pump out so we can pull into their dock area, get our little gray water and black water passport stamp that we pumped out at their places, which means you have to have a pump out. So we need to put that there. Then over here, this is where the gray water tank ends. And these two compartments here, this big one and this one over here, are just empty storage. There's no tanks or anything in there. This, however, is the diesel tank to the stern here. And so the diesel tank is going to come through this wall, come over here, and come up on the other side of where the gray water tank is. Excuse me, yeah, gray water tank right there. And that fill tube is going to go up to the deck up there. So the diesel will come down there, come through, come over here, and enter the diesel tank, actually down low down in there. We had to do similar shenanigans over here where these black water and gray water tank is, because again, we need a fill, diesel fill here, and I have whole different problems over on this side. Because here, again, we have a wall. We have a wall that is coming across the boat at an angle about right here. And so we're going to put the diesel fill right here, and that'll drop the diesel down into this area. And so it's going to come down, it's going to turn, it's going to come through this wall and enter this device right here for where the diesel goes into the diesel tanks. And then the black water one is going to be just inside over here. Now we don't have to worry about which side of the wall we're on this one, because this isn't a shower, so it's a dry either side of the main wall. So the wall's out here somewhere, and the diesel pump out is going to end up being somewhere around here. So that'll go all the way up to the ceiling up there, and down right here, and that goes down to the very bottom of that black water tank to pump it out if we need to from a dock. Then there's all the vent tubes that we had to figure out. Again, because that vent tube right there, which is the gray water one, it comes right down to where the doors are again now. So we had to figure out how to turn that and take it over to a different place. So a lot of changes we had to make, purely because we suddenly decided to change the way these heads are. Fortunately, on the starboard side, we don't have to do any of this, because my original plan is still plenty good. But on this side, we had to make all those changes. So that we spent the first hour and a half doing this morning is actually putting the sole in, which is that huge piece you see sitting right there. And we put the sole in, and we put the walls in, and we checked all of that stuff to make sure that it's all going to work and fit with that new system, in case before we built it and then found out, you know, that we couldn't do it. So now Brent and I are going to be on this side of the hull over in starboard, and here we've got a few modifications we need to make today. Fix a slight miscalculation. The width of this opening right here for an access port that we're putting in here turned out to not be quite wide enough, because there's a lip on this side that I wasn't taking into account, and that makes this opening only this wide, and that's pretty darn tight to get your arm down in there if you need to clean this out. So this is a simple fix. All we're doing is cutting this back further here, and once I do that, it makes this opening wider again, and I can get in there easy enough. And all that, to do that, all we have to do is cut this back and recore just this little section, and it's all is well. We're just taking this back about 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters approximately, the same. And I already have Brian and Brian already cutting back the piece that goes in here to match that. Now we just need to core out these and refill those, and I'll have a much wider spot to get down my arm down in there. Brent's over here cleaning up the nav station supports for the water trough and for the 2 supports that hold it up at the right angle. So we've got them cored, and they've set up, so he's cleaning them up. And the pair of Brian's is over here working on the diesel tank lids, so they're getting those all filled in the inside corner. We don't have to fill the rest of this because that gets glued to the walls, but right here, this is where the access port's going to be, and so all those have to get filled in, which is what they're doing right now. For a second there, I thought we had them backwards. We don't. This is the way it goes. I won't be able to put it all the way in here. If I move that, I can get it most of the way in here to test. And this is why we brought it up here, because that ain't right. Okay. But but since the epoxy's all still wet, some of this is easy to fix. Okay, we have them in the right position now. One thing I didn't really talk about before is over here, the piece of acrylic that we're going to be putting on here. It doesn't just mount to the front. It's going to lay across the top of this whole part and then out, so that any water doesn't have any gaps to go down. It just goes all the way down the acrylic and off. This is just a support for the acrylic and something to put some attachment points into. But okay, so we're going to take this downstairs again because we're not done with it. This was just phase one. All right, so next thing we need to do is glue on, back up a little, these end pieces here. These are going to go out here. This little angle threw me off at one point here, but this was back when it was supposed to go up against one of the mullions, and we completely modified the mullions, made them different, so those don't really match up to what the mullions are right now. And I could have tilted this over to here, but that's too severe of an angle for the way that we want that little acrylic brow to be. So it's best just to do this. This is all we care about, is that it's glued on here, and this gives us the flat bottom to set down onto. This really doesn't matter. We've got Brent and his brother Brian again helping today. So Brian's down here cleaning up the various compartments that we finished the epoxy work on yesterday. On the other side of the hull, over here on the port side, I've got Brent, and he's getting these L brackets ready to do these 4 diesel compartments. Right, these are the last 4 diesel compartments. We're going to get that done today, so they'll be finished. Then we can concentrate on some of the plumbing, and eventually get to putting L brackets on every one of these for the sole portion of it. Even the ones that have the tank lids in here with L brackets already, they have another set of L brackets that go above there to support and glue the sole down onto it. Okay, we got the first part of our electronics panel in here, and now we can test fit. Like that. Very snug fit. Roll it out like that. And then this is that gap we want for the water to run down into the trough. But there's a secondary reason for that gap that I never mentioned, which is there's electronics in here that get warm, and we didn't want to seal this completely. So this will let heat also rise up out of the back here. Besides being the water catch, it's the heat out, and then once we put the piece of acrylic on here, it's the sun block and rain diverter. So that's coming along pretty nicely. So next thing we're going to do, take that, is put the trough in. Now we're going to, I also showed putting the trough low when I mentioned it, but it's actually going to start pretty high up and come along here and only get lower when we get towards that end over there. Well, it's Saturday, and Brian are back into production on our L brackets again, because we need so many of them. Here's the set that they made yesterday. Those are all set up now. Just need to be trimmed off on the edges. And they're making 4 more. So they have all of the parts cut right here. And now they're just into assembly mode. Meanwhile, Brent and I are over here working on hatch covers for the diesel tank on the port side of the boat. And these are fortunately almost identical to the ones we cut on the starboard side. because they're in the same exact positions. They're not exactly the same, but they're close. The only thing we had to fix was the length of this particular one right here was slightly different because of one of the bulkheads we put in was in a slightly different position. Excuse me, webbings for the down in the bilge. So we're fixing that up right now, and we'll get that done. All right, now what we're doing is working on the back of the seat here. We're getting close to getting it right, one way or another. So that piece is going there, and we're creating this very funky custom piece here that has to go in around this mullion here, like so. Now, this is the piece that was made by the kit to go here, but for unknown reasons, probably because we changed how this whole thing works, there's a gap over here. So Brent and I are going to cut a special piece in here to add on to this. So we have to get this in the right place, and then we can figure out what piece to cut in there. But before we do that, I've got to get a bevel on here because this is at an angle and this is straight up and down. It's not fitting correctly. So we're going to fix that right now. All right. See, that way this now matches up to this angle of this edge here. So it'll glue on there better. Now we're going to tab the back side of this here, and we're going to tab the seat at the base down there. And we're going to tab all the way around these eventually. So this will all get tabbed in, but right now we're just gluing things in.
So this week we got a lot of work done with the 4 guys working on the nav station electronics panels and the diesel lids in both hulls.
Yeah, and those are a lot of work getting all of those tops cut and all the tabbing that we did in there. So that was lots of work. And then we had to lift the big, huge sole pieces in to check certain things and plan for how we're changing the plumbing. So there was at least in the starboard hull, the port hull, it doesn't change. So lots of work got done this week, and we were happy to have Brent and Brian Field here to help us. We appreciate them. And just as a small thing, a little bit sad. Lost one of our very loyal viewers this week. Their father passed away this week, and he got up every Saturday morning, and first thing he did was to watch our video and then call up his sons to talk to them. Have you seen Phil's video this week? He was 94, and sadly he passed away, but he lived a nice full life, and we appreciate that he loved our videos. And so thank you to Brent and his brother for during the week where their father passed away, coming out and working on the boat. But we do appreciate them. And next week we are going to continue work on these hulls, and there's just so much work to go down here. It's sort of the biggest job left on the entire boat, and we're moving along well on it. So there's a few more lids that we have to cut, but we can't actually mount these down yet, these lids. They're just sitting in here. And that's because we have to do a bunch of work on the plumbing before we can actually take this down. So we have to create some fiberglass tubes that we're going to be using to mount into here. And then we've got conduits to run down through holes, and there's just a bunch of work to do on these things before we can get the soles in. So thank you all for watching this week.
Yes, and
Appreciate you coming by.
thank you to our patrons listed here. We appreciate you so much and could not do this project without you. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
So we'll see you next week. for work in the bilges. See you then.
Bye.